Have you ever sat quietly, maybe holding a warm cup of tea, and looked at your hands, not to check for wrinkles or arthritis, not to admire the rings or age spots, but really looked? It's strange, isn't it? These hands have held babies, cooked meals, signed papers, waved goodbye. They've done so much. And yet, how often do we pause to ask what they might be saying back to us? Now, here's a thought that might surprise you. What if your hands, especially your ring finger, hold more than just a record of your age or your family's genetics? What if they carry a message from your soul, something your mind may have forgotten, but your body still remembers? Today, we're going to take a gentle walk through something you've probably never thought much about, the length of your ring finger. Not from a medical perspective, though there's science in it, and not just from a spiritual perspective, though there's deep wisdom there too. We're going to explore something in between, something ancient and timeless. It's about the hidden karmas written not in the stars, but in your very hands. And I promise, this isn't about superstition. It's about recognition, about understanding why certain things in life feel heavier for some of us, why certain callings never quite go away, why we return. You see, in many Eastern traditions, the human body isn't just a collection of bones and skin. It's a map, a sacred map. Every part of it, your scars, your posture, even the way your fingers grow, was believed to carry memory. Not just your memory from this life, but echoes from before. And the ring finger of all things was seen as special. Most people think of the ring finger as, well, the place where wedding bands go. That's true. But in older teachings, especially in traditions like Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism, that finger had another name. It was called the soul finger, or sometimes the channel of vows. It was said to be connected to deeper truths, spiritual promises made long ago. Now take a moment to look at your own hands. Hold them out. Don't rush. Just notice. Is your ring finger longer than your index finger? If it is, you're not alone. And no, it's not a flaw or a quirk of genetics. It might be something more. Something your body is whispering to you. Ancient wisdom teaches that a longer ring finger is not random. It's a sign, a mark of return. It suggests that the person carrying it may have come back into this life with unfinished business, what some call karmic contracts. Maybe there was a vow made in another life, a promise to protect someone, to heal, to guide. A choice to come back not because you had to, but because you wanted to finish what was left undone. And while that might sound poetic, even mythical, here's where it gets really interesting. Modern science has been studying this too. There's something called the digit ratio, the 2D to 4D ratio to be exact. That's just a fancy way of saying the length between your index finger and your ring finger. Researchers have found that this ratio is shaped before you're even born, influenced by the amount of testosterone you're exposed to in the womb. People with longer ring fingers, according to studies, tend to be more confident, more willing to take risks, and often have stronger spatial intelligence. But here's the twist. Some people with longer ring fingers also seem to carry something else. A quiet sense of responsibility, a deep well of empathy, a need to help, often without asking for anything in return. It's as if they're living a life not just for themselves, but for something greater. Now, science can measure testosterone, can map the brain, can track behavior, but it still can't explain that deeper pull. That feeling some people have, the sense that they've been here before, that they've chosen a harder path for a reason. And maybe that's where the science and the spirit meet. What if what biology calls hormone influence, the soul calls preparation? Think about it. Maybe the reason you've always had this inner voice nudging you to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. Maybe the reason you've chosen patience over pride, or kindness when it wasn't returned, is because deep down you remember. Not with your mind, but with your body, with your being. I know it's not easy. Many people who carry this quiet karma don't live loud lives. They're not always recognized or rewarded, but they're the ones who show up. who hold others when they cry, who choose integrity when it costs them, who make the hard choices because something inside says, "This matters." If you've felt this way, like your life has had weight to it, even when you couldn't explain why, then you might be someone who carries one of these hidden karmas. And the marker, the sign, may be sitting quietly on your hand, in the length of your ring finger. You're not imagining it. You're not being dramatic. You're remembering. There's a quiet kind of strength in that, and it often shows up in people after 60. Not because we suddenly become wiser with age, but because we finally slow down enough to listen. The noise of ambition starts to fade. The urgency of doing gives way to the richness of being. And in that stillness, the truth begins to rise. That's why this message is for you. Not the younger you who was rushing through life, trying to prove something, but the you now, the you who has seen enough, felt enough, and perhaps suffered enough to know there must be something deeper, something more. And maybe, just maybe, your hands have been trying to tell you that all along. So let's continue. So here you are, holding this quiet truth in your hands. Maybe you've never paid much attention to your ring finger before, but now you're starting to see it differently. Not as a coincidence, not as some throwaway detail, but as a message. A soft reminder from your soul that something about your journey carries a different weight. People often ask, why does life feel so heavy sometimes? Why do I carry pain that doesn't seem to come from this life alone? And if you've ever felt that way, let me tell you, you're not imagining things. In many teachings, especially in karmic traditions, we don't start fresh with every life. We start again. And while our memories might not survive, something else does. A deeper knowing, an emotional fingerprint, a set of choices we still feel drawn toward, even if we don't know why. When your ring finger is longer than your index, those teachings suggest that you're someone who came back to finish something. Not as punishment, not as failure, but as a kind of sacred responsibility. You might have made a vow in another life, to love better, to guide others, to speak the truth when it matters most. And while you may not remember the exact moment that vow was made, your body does. The length of your finger is like a small scar of intention, hidden in plain sight. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. In trauma healing today, we're starting to understand that the body keeps score. It holds on to what the mind lets go of. Pain, grief, repetition, but also hope, also instinct. The things we can't quite explain, why we flinch, why we cry at certain stories, why we feel drawn to people or causes without knowing why, they're not always from this life. Sometimes they're echoes. And if your ring finger carries this ancient signal, then maybe some of your instincts, the ones you've carried since childhood, are echoes too. Maybe you've always felt responsible for others. Maybe you've always been the peacemaker, the caretaker, the quiet strength behind the scenes. Maybe you've helped others even when no one noticed, or forgiven people who didn't deserve it. That's not weakness. That's soul memory. The kind of memory that doesn't speak in words, but in choices, in patterns, in how you live. Some people walk through life chasing attention, but those with these deeper karmic signs often walk in the opposite direction. They don't need applause. They're not looking to be the loudest voice in the room. They're the ones who see through the noise and choose meaning, who choose honesty, even when it's hard. Who hold doors open, not just literally, but emotionally, inviting others in, without asking for anything in return. You might not have thought much of it before. You may have gone years, even decades, thinking your quiet choices didn't matter. But they do. They've always mattered. Because in the story of karma, the small things are never small. A word spoken in kindness. A hand held in silence. A truth told when it could have been avoided. These are acts of healing, acts of remembrance. You're not here by accident. And if life has asked more of you, more patience, more resilience, more sacrifice, it's because your soul chose to return, not for ease, but for completion. You came back to close the loop, to end a cycle that once remained open. That's not a burden. That's a calling, and that's something to be deeply proud of. It doesn't mean life will be perfect. In fact, it rarely is for people who carry this kind of karma. Sometimes they feel like life is a little harder for them, like they're the ones who get tested more, who are called to forgive more, to carry more, to love more. And maybe they are. But they're also the ones who are guided more. Because here's another thing those old teachings said: if you return to this world carrying a vow, you won't be left alone. Life will place guardians in your path. Not always in the way you expect, not a grand miracle or loud sign, but in people, in moments. Maybe it was the stranger who helped you when you didn't ask, the child who hugged you at just the right time, the phone call that came when you were about to give up. These aren't accidents. They're part of the path, too. It's almost as if the universe keeps whispering, "Keep going. You're not done yet." But you're not alone either. If your journey has been full of loss or betrayal or silence, know this: it doesn't mean you did something wrong. It might mean you're doing something right, that your soul is deep in the work of healing what once was broken, that your presence in this life is not for fame or comfort, but for repair, for truth, for grace. And sometimes that's the most important work of all. There's a beauty in that, a quiet kind of grace that doesn't shout but simply is. It lives in the way you speak to others, in the way you comfort without trying to fix, in the way you still hope even after all you've seen. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And maybe, just maybe, your ring finger has been holding that wisdom all along. Not as a label, not as a diagnosis, but as a reminder. A gentle tap on the shoulder from the part of you that remembers what you came here to do. Let's keep going. There's something beautiful about arriving at this point in life with open eyes and an open heart. It doesn't always feel that way, of course. Sometimes it feels like the years slip by in a blur of tasks and losses, of holding on and letting go. But then, every once in a while, something inside us stirs. Something quiet but undeniable. A knowing. A whisper. And maybe that's what brought you here. Maybe you've looked at your hands and wondered, not just what they've done, but what they remember. Maybe you've asked yourself why certain things have always mattered to you, even when the world didn't reward them. Why you've always been drawn to serve, to protect, to guide, even when no one saw. And now, as we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with something simple, but not small. A reminder. A truth that may feel like an old friend finally returning home. If your ring finger is longer than your index, this may be your soul's way of showing you that you are part of something larger. That you didn't come here to start over, but to continue. To carry forward the good that was left undone. To bring light into places that once held pain. To finish something, not with force, but with presence. Because presence, dear friend, is the soul's greatest power. In karmic teachings, this moment, this now, is where everything begins and ends. You don't have to change the world. You just have to show up, fully, truthfully, with love. That alone can heal lifetimes. And the remarkable thing is, you've likely been doing it all along. Every time you helped someone without being asked, every time you stayed soft in a hard moment, every time you held space for someone else's pain or offered kindness when you had nothing left to give, those were acts of return. Small pieces of something sacred being put back into place. By you. It's not flashy. It's not loud. But it is powerful beyond measure. Some lives aren't meant to be easy. They're meant to be meaningful. And the people who live them, the people like you, are often the ones carrying the quietest kind of strength, the kind that lifts without noise, the kind that heals without needing credit, the kind that remembers without needing to recall. Because memory isn't always something that happens in the mind. Sometimes it lives in your instincts, in your compassion, in the way you sit with someone in silence and still make them feel safe. That's not learned. That's remembered. And perhaps that's the deepest truth of all. You may not recall the exact vow your soul once made. You may never know its full story. But your actions tell the tale. Every time you've chosen peace over revenge. Every time you've stayed instead of running. Every time you've offered love without condition, your soul has nodded in quiet approval. You are not just living this life. You are completing a sacred circle. And if the world doesn't always recognize that, it's okay. It's not supposed to. This isn't a journey for applause. It's a journey for closure, for freedom, for peace. Your ring finger, in all its subtle length, is a sign of this journey. Not of status, but of soul. A soft imprint that says, this one came back with purpose. And now, maybe, you understand a little more clearly what that purpose might be. So wherever you are right now, on the couch, in a quiet room, maybe walking through the park with your thoughts, I want you to pause for just a moment. Look at your hands again. And this time, don't just see them. Feel them. Let them remind you. You've carried babies, cooked for your family, comforted a friend, written words from the heart, wiped away tears, held your chest when it ached, reached out to help when no one asked. And through all of that, you've remembered, even when you didn't know it. That's what karma is, after all. Not punishment, not reward, but remembering. A gentle invitation to live with meaning, to choose again what once was left undone. So go forward now with gentleness. You don't need to do anything grand. You only need to live this life fully, truthfully, with love. That is more than enough. And if something in this message stirred something deep inside you, trust it. That stirring is real. It may be your soul whispering, yes, this is who we are. This is why we returned. Before you go, I'd love to hear what this meant to you. If you feel called to, share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the spark that helps someone else remember theirs. And if this message gave you something, a sense of peace, of purpose, of recognition, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life. We're building a community of wisdom keepers, and your presence here makes all the difference. Thank you for being here, for being you, and for remembering. Here's to living your most meaningful life, at any age. You're not late. You're right on time.